Um, Thank you for having me today. It's really a long day for me, exactly, because the time difference as well as I just finished my teaching. But I think it's really good to share the projects on global education governance with other fantastic projects together. And let me introduce myself again. My name is Ren-Hao. You can just call me Ren. I'm a lecturer in the Graduate School of Education at the University of Western Australia. And today I will present one of my studies, Reassembling Future Education Policy Mobilities within and between Taiwanese, Australian, and global networks that I conduct with my colleagues, Professor Pei and Qing Wen from National Taiwan Normal University. And before I begin, I would like to acknowledge my current place, stand on the land of the Wajak people of the Nuga Nation, and I'm committed to listening deeply to a voice of First Nations people. And before I give you the detailed information and my findings from my project, I want to give you two key highlights of these studies. So basically, this study is to follow and trace the future learning policy that facilitated by a transnational private organization called New Pedagogies for Deep Learning, NPDL in short. And in particular, we analyze its policy, mobilities, and assemblage within the Taiwanese education system, which means how the policy mobilize and reassemble in Taiwanese schooling system. And second, we analyze the transnational interaction between Taiwanese and Australian NPDL networks. And here you may feel like, why Taiwan and Australia? So random. And because in 2022, the Taiwanese NPDL policy actor, they traveled to Sydney to learn how NPDL policy was implemented in Australia's context. And third, we also explore the multi-directional circulation within the global NPDL networks. So in the past decade, I think we kind of like agree that there has been a growing global phenomenon that future education or future learning get lots of attention by many governments or international organizations. So the idea or the message that sent is, well, if your system or education system don't direct towards future education, then your younger generation or future next generation will not be well prepared for future challenges. And according to Susan Robertson, I think this shift represents a kind of like a temporalities of global governing practice focused on future. And for OECD and the UNESCO, they both have their own discourse about future education, as well as what kind of the practice or strategies can achieve what they call the future learning. And our focus is about NPDL, which defines future education by its own ways and propose a future learning framework that if you adopt this framework, then you can kind of like reform the old school system, make it more futuristic or future-oriented. And this organization, NPDL, was founded in 2013 by Canadian scholar Michael Follen in collaboration with organizations like OECD, Intel, Microsoft, Pearson, and other EdTech. And the mantra it uses schooling as it was set up 150 years ago is no longer suited for the present times. And so far, NPDL has expanded massively across different countries from Finland to Australia, from Brazil to South Africa, with more than 2,000 schools having joined its global partnership. And for these partner schools, NPDL provide them a clear and well-defined governing program to implement the so-called future education and the future learning with 6 Cs. They call 6C, from communication, critical thinking, collaboration, creativity, character, citizenship, along with a whole package of curriculum design and leadership strategies to make schools more future-oriented. And in our project, we kind of like quite curious about how the NPDL mobilize and mutate in and across different contexts. And our assumption for policy is unlike the conventional policy that treat policy production and the processes are strained by national boundary as well as national government. We use a policy mobilities and assembly theory conjoined approach, PMAT, to analyze the fast-moving and the fluid nature of global education governance that, in this case, NPDL, create and modified by a wide range of actors, institutions, and a project, which means although the NPDL came from the Canadian scholar and lots of ideas came from the Canadian school system and other, again, international organization, but while it traveled and land in Taiwanese context, it moved along with its mobilized. And second, policy in our project are seen as a configuration made up by heterogeneous part, which means including not only about human beings, but also objects, what kind of strategy, tactics, and programs used to make these policies reassemble and make it more, I would say, locally suitable for the context in Taiwan. So while most of the studies apply PMAT, either policy mobilities or assembly theory, they kind of like mainly focus on federal system. And let us feel like, well, yeah, we're kind of like wondering how policy mobilities and the mutation look like in a non-federal context. So therefore, we pay attention on the movement as well as its process of the NPDL policy from Canada to Taiwan, and particularly the so-called NPDL policy learning tour. That Taiwanese policy actors, they travel to Sydney right after the pandemic in 2022 to join the attend the face-to-face workshop as well as visit the NPDL partner school to learn the experience from Australia. And methodologically, we adopt a digital and the network and ethnographic to trace and follow the NPDL policy. The analyzed source include interviews with the policy actors in Taiwan as well as those attend the visit to Sydney. And we are very lucky that we were part of this. We get the chance to observe the visit in Sydney across 2 weeks. So we got their reflection. These policy actors, they shared on PEDAD, as well as we have observational data. And also in this study, we analyzed digital materials relevant to the NPDL policy from Taiwan, from Canada, or I would say from the global networks. And let me start with a policy context in Taiwan. So before the NPDL policy landed in, the government has introduced a curriculum reform policy to dismantle the unchanged culture of schooling that predominantly focus on rote learning, memorization, the paper test that exclusively aim to prepare students for university admission examinations. And so in 2014, the government released the 108 curriculum policy, which aim to use core competencies as the proposal to deal with and resolve the traditional schooling that focus on rote learning. And the government said that school education must evolve in response to societal needs and contemporary trends. thereby cultivating citizens who possess lifelong learning capabilities and social responsibility. And it is pretty clear the ultimate goal is to prepare students with ability to address future challenges. So I think this policy made up a picture that problematized the rote learning and traditional pedagogies that focus on memorization and use future education as a discourse and the competency-based curriculum as a strategy to achieve such goal that, like this kind of like arguing that a real world ability and make learning more flexibility can make our future generation more well prepared for the challenges that we don't have yet. However, while teachers and school leaders had around 5 years to get ready for the new curriculum policy that released in 2013 and will aim to officially implement in 2019. The lack of concrete strategies for implementing either competency-based pedagogies or future learning course design lead to a widespread sense of anxiety and the feel that they are not ready among schools, which became the primary barrier to the curriculum reform. An NPDL framework emerged contingently as a recommended approach during the visit of policy actors in Finland. So for a long time, I think around nearly 2 decades, Finland, Singapore, among other countries, has been a reference society for Taiwanese education reform. I think mainly because of the high achievement in PISA test. And at the time, I would say randomly, contingently, the information about NPDL was received by a policy actors a group of policy actors when they traveled to Finland. And when they're back to Taiwan, they kind of like start to discuss the possibilities of this program and analyze its, I would say, possibilities of integrating into the curriculum reform. And then, because NPDL has a quite clear roadmap towards what kind of strategy you can use to build up a future learning school, so it quickly attract the policy actors in Taiwan and make a decision that, well, actually, maybe we can have a try and see how NPDL roadmap can be integrated into the existing reform climate. So one of our participants sharing that, well, like while promoting the new curriculum, it is challenging to implement the competency-based education. There's no specific strategy explanation. However, with NPDL framework, I have a guidance that indeed provide a roadmap showing me that is the way to the future. And as mentioned earlier, Taiwan is not a federal system. However, schools are in charge by different education administrations. There are 6 spatial cities, including Taipei City and New Taipei City, that I put on this slide, have a greater power and the sources for their schools. While other schools outside these 6 cities rely on the funding from National Education Administration, which is Ministry of Education, and mainly regulated by it. So when NPDL was decided by policy actors at the central level, recommending schools to participate in this policy and try to integrate NPDL into the curriculum reform structure, there were 12 national schools joined. And both Taipei and the New Taipei schools also expressed their interest, with 10 schools respectively become the partners. So across these 3 clusters, and a laboratory team was formed to coordinate the resources and the standards of the NPDL policy in Taiwan. And the members coming from these three education, Department of Education, MOE, and a research-intensive agency we call National Academy for Education Research, and also a philanthropic foundation and retired principals. And because later I won't talk much about this philanthropic foundation, but I think it's important to know that. So at the beginning when Taiwan registered or expressed the interest to join the NPDL network, these schools need to pay the membership fee. And some schools, even they have a funding from the government, because of the NPDL policy in Taiwan is a competitive-based policy that some school, even like they don't receive funding from the government, they still want to be part of it. And these foundation help them to pay the fees as a membership schools to the central hub of NPDL in Canada. And this advisory team serves a pivotal node that connects other nodes holding the assemblage policy in Taiwan. So for example, they ensure the cohesive integration of NPDL toolbox, and also help the school and the teachers communicate with the headquarters of NPDL based in Canada, and also organize and provide consultancies for schools about how the policy ideas and programs from Canada can be integrated into Taiwanese curriculum system. And as Taiwan became the member of the NPDL, it also integrated into a global assemblage of NPDL lead future education, connecting with other assemblage in member schools overseas, such as Finland, Canada, and Australia, through virtual workshop and a regular online symposium to share their NPDL policy experience. I think because at that time, I think it was in around 2021, because Taiwan became the official member of NPDL in 2021. So starting that, it was still during the COVID time. So most of their interaction was conducted virtually. And around early 2022, when lots of the governments they reopened their border and the COVID era seems like less serious, like there was a special project proposed by the policy actors in Taiwan. They want to visit the NPDL member schools in Sydney. So international visit was part of the NPDL program that many NPDL schools they travel and share the experience and learn from each other. So one of the reason is another reason that why Taiwanese actor chose Australian as a reference society in this case is one of the key actors in global networks from the Association of Independent Schools of New South Wales. So in March 2022, that around 20 policy actors from Taiwan, they traveled to New South Wales to attend the face-to-face workshop as well as visit NPDL member schools. And although the NPDL case utilized by the AIS New South Wales during the workshop were pretty context specific, which means their experience mainly came from the New South Wales and Australian policy context. But the discourse and the techniques that emanate from the Canadian Central Hub of NPDL equip both sides, Australian and Taiwanese policy actors, with a epistemological toolkits, which means even they know very little about both education system, culture, political dynamics, anything. But they kind of like feel that they have the common language to share and learn from each other. So one policy actor say, I believe that this video provides a common language, help us better facilitate discussions and dialogues about the implementation. And the other policy actors share that when I listen to their experience, I often feel a deep connection with them. So it's very interesting, right? Even that I haven't met before, but this global framework allow them to talk without lots of the barrier from the the contextual knowledge they need. And so these policy actors say it's as if there is a checklist in my mind, allowing me to understand their practice. As I listen, I found myself thinking, yes, I do this too, and I also do that. And the second thing they found is when they are talking to each other, they realize that both Sydney and Taiwan they have a high stake examination, in which these kind of like structures intensify the feeling of belonging for both sides. And one policy actor shared on the pad that saying that at our school, NPDL is highly regarded. Yes, like we take it very serious, but implementation is feasible only for or primarily for teachers who teach non-exempt subject, which means if you teach like math, science, or English, and because you have a pressures about students' performance in the examination, so NPTEL is less feasible. And the policy actors in from Taiwan, they also heard some similar sharing from Australian, or I should be specific, Sydney policy actors. And the last thing they share is the NPDL policy implementation in Taiwan before they came to Sydney. The imagination, the strategy they use is to mandate school integrate NPDL with a semester loan, and this make the lots of policy actors and school leader feel frustrated. However, when they interact with the policy actor in Sydney, and they realize that, well, actually, lots of the school and school leader and teachers, they only integrate NPDL future lead framework into a small or manageable proportion within their course. And it's kind of like give the Taiwanese actors an idea that, well, actually, I can start by a manageable and a practical step rather than straight away to a semester long course design, which is more challenging. And this international visit was concluded by a nationwide forum when Taiwanese policy actors returned from Sydney. And both participants and the non-participants of the Sydney visit were required to attend this event by the respective education authorities as a way to disseminate what can be learned from Australian counterparts. And those policy actors who did not participate in the international visit in Sydney were encouraged to connect this practice with the existing implementation approach and adapt their strategies to incorporate NPTEL into the competency-based curriculum policy. So here we notice that the policy mobilized again from Sydney to Taiwan, that is quite different from the first wave of mobilities and assemblage from Canada and other, I would say, other interaction with Finland or the US networks before they travel to Sydney. So I think it kind of like our argument is kind of like to showing you that the policy process and the development, it's not simply implemented or enacted by the national government. So in this case, we unveiled a complicated web of mobilities and reassemblage. So the first assemblage, we may argue that from Canada to Taiwan, and the second reassemblage from Australia to Taiwan, that blur the conventional lines between the in here, which is the local Taiwan, to transnational, and out there from the global. And the future learning policy like NPDL was not a product of direct instruction from Canada. In our case, it was forged through a network that linked with a wide range of physical and virtual space, place, actors, and movement. That the product itself in Taiwan contains multiple logics and lots of ideas that that create further interaction rather than simple policy transfer or borrowing or copy and paste to Taiwan. And thank you for your time. I hope my presentation was clear. Sorry for some of the like my unclear pronunciation and unclear expression. And you have to forgive me because I have such a long day. But I'm really excited to follow. I'm really excited for our discussion later. Thank you.